Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, afternoon, guys. This is Jeff again. We're back multiple times. And in fact, a couple things are happening. So tonight, we're going to show an example of some of the things that we study in our Mission English program. In case you don't know, we have a small group coaching class called Mission English, where every day, twice a day, in fact, so this is our Thursday 7:30 p.m. session. We meet for 30 minutes, a small group class. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's multiple students, sometimes just one student, depends on the situation. And we go through some pronunciation exercises. So I want to give you an example of the type of exercises that we do. I also want to remind you that tomorrow at 8 a.m. New York, you can join me on screen and you can ask me a pronunciation question. We can do a pronunciation exercise together. Take a look. We have the stream already uploaded and ready. So that way we can get started right at 8 a.m. New York. So you can join me. There's a link in the video description for that video. So that way you will be able to appear on screen, ask me your pronunciation question, and things like that. So today, one of the things that we do a lot in our Mission English program is we take a look at transcripts. So I'm going to demonstrate for you what exactly we can do with them. And I want to show you an exercise I actually just did not too long ago. I did it yesterday while working with a student. So this is a transcript. Okay, so this is actually used by a native speaker. But one of the things that transcripts can be helpful for is they can help us understand how to break down the rhythm of sentences in American English pronunciation. There are a couple key things that you always want to be paying attention to when it comes to whole sentences that I'm going to highlight for you. So the first thing we want to identify is we want to identify, for instance, thought groups. If you don't know what thought groups are basically inside of our sentence. They're groups of words that go together before your next group of words. A lot of times they're separated by a pause. The reason we do this, and you do this in your language too, every language has thought groups, because when we talk, we don't talk one word at a time, we group words together. We don't talk one word at a time. No one talks like that, right? We put things together, we link them together, and so this is why thought groups are really important, because they show us how can we join together the parts of a sentence in a way that sounds more natural. So looking at our script here, let's just kind of work through a couple of sentences. Maybe we're going to go down to evicted. Okay? So let's identify where we think our thought groups could actually fall. So maybe right here. Yeah, for my family, first thought group, that was a constant source of anxiety. Thought group, we bounced around a lot. Thought group, and as I'm doing this, you might be thinking, like, Jeff, how are you even deciding where these thought groups go? And the reality is, there's a lot of subjectivity. There are so many options with this. There's no one right answer. Okay, so if you're doing this and you feel like you want to put a thought group in a different spot, that can definitely work. There's so many options to this. You can almost make anything work, really, if you have the right pitches around it, the right stress patterns, and things like that. So there's a lot of subjectivity to this. There's no one right answer. You can follow, for instance, punctuation. So, for instance, I could put a thought group at the end of housing. I might put one here on like. In fact, I might put like on its own. Missed payment by a little bit will be evicted. Okay, so we've identified some thought groups. Thought groups are really helpful for us because if I can find the thought groups, there's a couple other things I can know immediately. First thing I can do is I know that we need to have a stress somewhere in here, because in every thought group there is one word that's going to receive heavy emphasis. So let's pick a different color for this. So I'm going to say my. And for my family, because I wanted to emphasize this, my, not your family, not someone else's family, my family. Um, that was our constant source of anxiety. I'm going to stress that in this case. We bounced around a lot. I'm going to stress around because a phrasal verb, typically when you have a phrasal verb, the stress is going to fall on the particle or the preposition. Okay, we bounced around a lot. But ever since we landed in public housing, I'm going to stress housing. We haven't had to worry. I'm going to stress worry about a rent being raised, or like if we miss a payment by a little bit, we'll be evicted. Okay, so I've identified some stresses. Cool. And this is just like thought groups. Pretty much anything in the right situation can be stressed. Um, so if I picked a word to stress that you wouldn't have, that's okay. That's not necessarily a problem. Just a note there. Okay, so we have everything marked off. So then the next thing that we need to do is we have to identify how would we say these things? Because one of our biggest keys to American English pronunciation, we talked about this many times before. We described that, in American English is very, very similar to an office building. It's like an elevator in an office building. When you go from one thought group to the next thought group, you want there to be a change in pitch. If you've ever heard someone say that, oh, you sound flat, you sound monotone, you talk like a robot, that's their way of telling you that you are not changing your pitches when you're changing your thought groups. And so when we change our thought groups, we want to change our pitch level. Not just for the stressed word, but for the entire thought group. What does that even look like? Let's do a quick example. Let's maybe do our first thought group a little bit higher in pitch. Okay, see if you can copy me. Yeah, for my family, can you say that like I did? Higher. Yeah, for my family, can you go higher in pitch? Yeah, for my family, and then our next thought group, let's maybe go a little bit lower in pitch. That was our constant source of anxiety. Yeah, for my family, that was our constant source of anxiety. Yeah, for my family, that was our constant source of anxiety. Can you hear how the pitches just dropped? I started off really high, right? Yeah, for my family, then we went lower. That was our constant source of anxiety. You can do the opposite too. You can do like, yeah, for my family, that was our constant source of anxiety. Yeah, for my family, that was our constant source of anxiety. So I switched the pattern there, right? I start lower and then I go higher on the next thought group. Okay, there's so many options to this, but the key is just whatever you do, what you don't want to do is like, yeah, for my family, that was our constant source of anxiety. That's way too flat. Or, yeah, for my family, that was our constant source of anxiety. That's, again, too flat. We need some shifts in movement. This is going to help your listener immensely, and it's also going to help you sound more natural. So maybe our next thought group, maybe we'll go high again. So, yeah, for my family, that was our constant source of anxiety. We bounced around a lot, and then maybe I'll go down again. But ever since we landed in public housing, maybe I'll go down more. We haven't had to worry about our rent being raised, or and then maybe I'll go lower on like maybe I'll go higher. If we miss a payment by a little bit, maybe I'll go higher. We'll be evicted. So let's kind of do everything with the thought groups and the pitches and things like that. Okay. So, yeah, for my family, that was our constant source of anxiety. We bounced around a lot, but ever since we landed public housing, we haven't had to worry about our rent being raised or like if we miss a payment by a little bit, we'll be evicted. Okay. Are you able, when you talk, to introduce those sorts of changes in pitch into your own speech? Okay. Because the issue I see with students, and maybe this is also you, so you can let me know if this feels like something that you're doing. The issue that I see with students is students tend to have one area of strength. Maybe they're really good at the low pitches, or maybe they're really good at the high pitches. But the other half, they have a real hard time with. So if I'm really good at high pitches, maybe I have a hard time going low. Or if I'm really good with the high pitch, maybe if I'm really good with the low pitches, maybe I just can't go high. So trying to identify your own area of weakness, one easy way to test yourself, try saying wow for a moment, just like wow. Do you hear that I start really low? Ooh, and then I go really high. Wow, and then I go down again. Oh. that whole sequence. Which pitches are you able to hit? Can you do the lows at the beginning and the end? Can you do the high in the middle? Or are you kind of stuck? Try to listen for yourself, say it for yourself, let me know where you are as you're trying to pronounce those. Okay. So that's a very quick way to map sentences. A quick reminder too, if you go to youtube.com slash at Fluent American Shadowing, if you visit our shadowing channel, I already give you this information. I already tell you, hey, this is where the thought group is. Because in those videos, what you're going to see is you're going to see a slash. Okay, so every time there's a new thought group, there's a slash. And then I highlight the word that's stressed. So I'm already telling you all these things. So then all you need to listen for and all you need to repeat are those same concepts. You need to just be like, oh, that's the word that the native speaker stressed. That's where I need to put the thought group. That's where I need to change the pitch level. All of those sorts of things. Okay, so just a note on that. Moving on from this, some other things that I want you to be mindful of. We're going to use this same transcript. I'm going to take away our markings just for a moment. I'll keep the thought groups. So another big concept that's going to help you achieve a more natural sound when you say sentences is this idea that, and we talk about it a lot. It's one of the 4 key concepts: placement, pitch, breath. What's that last one? Weakening consonant sounds. And I was just talking about this with a student who's heard me say it many times before, but is now really starting to understand how it works, because basically we need to give more space in our words and our sentences to our vowel sounds, and we need to give less space and less concentration to our consonant sounds. And this is much more easily said than done, because most likely, and you can let me know what language you speak, but most likely you speak a language that goes very heavy on consonant sounds and goes very fast on vowel sounds, which is again the exact opposite of what English wants to do. So, for instance, take our first thought group here. So we have yeah, and, for, my, family. So yeah, and for my family. So let's just say that 3 times. Yeah, and for my family. Yeah, and for my family. Yeah, and for my family. Those are pretty heavy consonant sounds when I'm pronouncing it like that. So what I want to do instead is I really want to focus on the vowel sounds. So yeah, it has that quick like yeah, yeah. Try to say all of these words just with really the vowel sounds. Try to weaken the consonants as much as possible. It's like yeah, or I am. Can you do that again? Yeah, or I am. Yeah, or I am. And you might be like, Jeff, this no one talks like that. It's mush. No one can understand you. Please stop. And I get it. But let's take it to the next level now. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do those vowels, and then we're gonna add the consonants back in, but we're gonna make them very light and weak. Okay? So something like this. Yeah, where I am. Yeah, for my family. Yeah, where I am. Yeah, for my family. Yeah, where I am. Yeah, for my family. Versus, yeah, and for my family. Can you hear a difference? Yeah, for my family. Yeah, and for my family. Yeah, for my family. Yeah, for my family. Another thing you can try doing too, try to say that little thought group. Say it like 3 times as fast as you can. Can you say it 3 times and squeeze it all into 2 seconds? Yeah, for my family. Yeah, for my family. Yeah, for my family. If you're doing like, yeah, and for my family. Yeah, and for my family, you're not going to be able to do it. I'm going to run laps all around you because you're going to be too slow because your consonants are too strong. Okay, so really trying to draw out those vowel sounds. That's really key. Let's look at our next one. In fact, I want to touch a little bit on pitch for this next thought group. This is an interesting case because one of the things that we did when we marked off this sentence or this thought group, we said that the stress was on that. Okay, so that means that is going to be our really high pitch. That's going to be the highest pitch of this saw group because that's where we start and it's already stressed. Nothing else is stressed. How do I stress something in American English? How do I even stress anything? Well, if I want something to be stressed in American English, then what I need to do to my listener is I have to raise the pitch. I have to go higher in pitch. If I go higher in pitch on a section that's not stressed, that's going to be a problem because my listener is going to hear stress and they may have a hard time understanding me. Okay, that's in the worst case situation. So if that is stressed, it's going to sound something like this. That was our constant source of anxiety. Just going down, down, down. Okay. That was our constant source of anxiety. Do you hear how everything just drops? Right? It's just doing a decline, decline, decline. Are you able to do that? Are you staying flatter when you do this? Let me know. It's like, that was our constant source of anxiety. That was our constant source of anxiety. That was our constant source of anxiety. Let me show you what's going to happen to this if you raise the pitch on constant accidentally. So you want to stress that, but you accidentally do this. That was our constant source of anxiety. That was our constant source of anxiety. Do you see what just happens? You completely change the rhythm of that. Now your listener is going to hear stress on constant. Okay. The other thing that I want you to note that just because something is stressed doesn't mean that it has to have the highest pitch everywhere. Okay. It's like, for instance, in that first thought group, if I stress my, I might start like, yeah, for my family. Yeah, for my family. Notice that yeah is actually the higher pitch. But I went down, and then I got to my. My is stressed, so then I go up. Yeah, for my family. Yeah, for my family. Okay, so just a little note on stress there. Also, a note on pitch. Hopefully, you can find that relatively easy, but take your time with it because this is something that is easy to discuss, but not necessarily easy to implement. So let's take this again and try to say this. Let's see what this sounds like if we have heavy consonants. Like, that was our constant source of anxiety. That was our constant source of anxiety. That was our constant source of anxiety. Let's try to say that like 3 times as fast as we can while using heavy consonant sounds. So what would this sound like if we have heavy consonant sounds as we say this 3 times? That was our constant source of anxiety. That was our constant source of anxiety. That was our constant source of anxiety. Okay, so that was with slightly more closed vowel sounds, shorter vowel sounds, heavier consonant sounds. So what does this sound like if we do it 3 times with heavier vowel sounds and weaker consonant sounds? That was our constant source of anxiety. That was our constant source of anxiety. That was our constant source of anxiety. Okay, can you hear that difference? That was our constant source of anxiety. That was our constant source of anxiety. Hear a difference there? Um, it's all about breath. It's all about airflow. It's all about making sure you have enough contrast in terms of your pitches and things like that. American English is breath. Let's do the next thought group just to kind of get that into our practice as well. We bounced around a lot. I mentioned that the stress is going to be round. Okay. Notice that for around has 2 syllables, right? We bounced around. So I'm going to let you know one other pitch trick with stress. And this little trick is that. So for around is 2 syllables. The stress is on round. That means round needs to go higher in pitch. The stress is on round, so the pitch goes up. What do we do with the Well, a lot of times what happens right before a stressed syllable, not always, but a lot of times, is it goes even lower in pitch. It's going to drop an extra step. It's like bounced around. Do you hear that? Bounced around, bounced around. So it's not bounced around. That's too flat. Bounced around, it's way too flat. Versus bounced around. Do you hear that difference between bounced around and bounced around? So what I would say for you is that when you have a word that's stressed, If you have a word, especially like a multi-syllable word, or if you have like two words, like for instance, like a phrase like or like a three. Let's do like a three word phrase. Like for instance, like I got up, stressing up. It's like I got up, I got up, I got up, I got up. So notice that got is noticed to be lower than up. Got up, got up. I got up, I got up. Okay, bounced around. I got up. These are just sorts of little exercises you can do to just add some more pitch contrast in things. Bounced around a lot. Okay, let's now let's do a similar idea with this. Let's say this three times with some heavy consonant sounds. It's like we bounced around a lot, we bounced around a lot, we bounced around a lot, we bounced around a lot. Let's say this again three times with heavy vowel sounds and weak consonant sounds. We bounce around a lot, we bounce around a lot, we bounce around a lot. We bounced around a lot, we bounced around a lot, we bounced around a lot, we bounced around a lot. You can probably hear a difference there in terms of which one has more breath, which one has more flow, which one is able to sound a little bit more fluid as we talk. To me, focusing on vowel sounds makes this sound so much more natural. It's not even close. But maybe your results will vary, but I'm going to be very surprised if you are able to say it faster with the heavy consonant sounds. So let's do this. I'm going to read through every thought group here. I'm going to do it with a slightly exaggerated focus on vowel sounds. So that way you can use this as a model for practice. So you can try to say this as well with very heavy vowel sounds. I also want to encourage you, if you have liked what we've talked about and you want to practice this for yourself, if you go to fluentamerican.com/mission English, you too will be able to join me and our other group members as we do these sorts of exercises and target some specific sounds and talk about pitch and talk about placement. Look, no one else talks about these things, but these are the things that actually make you sound natural. This is the schedule that we have. Okay, so we're either meeting at 9:30 in the morning for 30 minutes, we're meeting at 1:30 p.m. for 30 minutes, or we're meeting at 7:30 p.m. for 30 minutes. All of these times are New York. We would love to have you with us to do these exercises with and get you sounding more natural in American English. So again, let's read through this. Keep the vowel sounds super, super heavy. Let me know how it goes for you. Yeah, for my family, that was a constant source of anxiety. We bounced around a lot, but ever since we landed in public housing, we haven't had to worry about our rent being raised or like if we miss a payment by a little bit, we'll be evicted. See how smooth that is just by focusing on vowels? If we miss a payment by a little bit, it's not miss a payment by a little bit. It's miss a payment by a little bit, we'll be evicted. It's not will be evicted. It's will be evicted. Just really trying to open up your vowel sounds. Guys, let me know how this approach works for you. Let me know what words are making your speech choppier and things like that. Thanks for spending some time with me tonight. Again, tomorrow, please, please, please join us right around 8 a.m. New York. You'll be able to appear on screen with me to ask any sort of pronunciation question related to yourself, just doubts you have. You want to know how to pronounce a word, you want to know how to pronounce a phrase, there's a sound that you struggle with. All of those things I'm going to be happy to answer for you. Otherwise, I will see you all later. Hope you have a good day, good night, good afternoon. You guys take care.